The next two, I think, is probably the more polarizing topic, and that is Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. And, we've seen some mock drafts recently have Anthony Richardson go first overall, and maybe that's just a little bit of an overreaction. I mean, obviously, the kid is super talented. The peak of his game is right there with any quarterback in this class, I think. And then you have Will Levis, who is a little bit better version of the Mitch Leidner hype in a way. I hate to compare those two because they're not comparable, but anytime I see something like that where it's like, oh, this quarterback who didn't really produce a ton in college is just this first round pick suddenly. And I think that we're trying to make Will Levis something that he's not. I think that he's a bad quarterback. I just think that we forced this narrative for some reason. And there's stuff to like about him, but I'm kind of curious what you think between Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, which one you would go with, and then how you feel about the Will Levis hype.
Yeah, I was never in on the Will Levis hype. And so Richardson's been the QB3 for me, like from the get, and Levis has been locked into the QB4. And those guys ain't changing. Like both of them are high risk, and high ceiling, I guess. So both of them are dice rolls. You're gonna have to work with both of them because both of them have sort of how would you say things that where if it's not fixed, they're going to be busts. So like is whatever. And with both of them, like one of the primary things with both the guys, it's mechanical, right? And that's where the accuracy issues with both of them manifest. But like I guess like when you're talking about the differentiation between the two and why do I have Richardson? If I was going to give the short answer, the two-pronged short answer. Number one, Richardson is better under pressure. Like I was talking about before, Levis's game tends to crater under pressure. Levis turns pressures into sacks at a ridiculous rate. In fact, I got the numbers here in my spreadsheet. One of the highest in the class in terms of that. He 26.8% of pressures were converted into sacks. Like I said, right near the top of this class. Richardson, one of the best in the class of that. In fact, one of the only guys in this class with a single digit number in that, 9.2%. So you have that. And then the other thing is Richardson makes really good decisions in the pocket, whereas Levis puts the ball up for grabs a lot. Is the other thing that I would say about that. So I'm gonna go. I go with Richardson. Oh, in the third, I said two prong, but I'll say three. Richardson has the higher ceiling as well. He got the better tools. So for those three reasons, I would put Richardson at QB3, and I'm pretty confident in that. You have to put Levis in the top four because Levis, the upside, if he hits, it's it's clearly higher than anyone beneath the top four. So you just have to because of the position value. But like again, like when you're comparing him with Richards, I just can't get there to putting Levis above Richardson. I just can't.
I haven't seen it. And even before the season began, people were talking about, talking about him in the top 10. And it's like, you mentioned positional value. And obviously, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you are, that obviously impacts where certain guys go, and it depends on what team is drafting, who's going to trade up. You have multiple teams, more than four in the first round that need a quarterback, and they're going to have to give up quite a bit to get one of those guys, regardless of where they pick them. So that's going to be really interesting too, is see who trades up and then who do they take with that pick. Because I don't think that every team is going to have, you'd like to think that everybody has Bryce Young as QB1, but there are some teams that are probably gonna be like, oh, Anthony Richardson has a cannon. Like, what if that works out? And, then we don't need Bryce Young because we have this guy who can just sling it everywhere. And so I think that's going to be interesting. One thing
I
when
actually think
you,
Joe, if you don't mind me interrupting,
yeah,
I actually think around the league there's more split opinions on that. And we'll end up seeing and maybe that who knows how this ends up playing out, but there's a scenario where things could get crazy. This idea has been forwarded to me, the sort of chaos theory, where if the Bears decide to stay at one because they fall in love with either probably Carter, but Anderson would be the other one. If they end up doing that, and then Houston, they pick at 12. If Houston is okay with the idea of getting the fourth one. If they feel like that could happen, maybe they take the other one because they feel like they're that the guy that they like, the other teams, the other teams like the other guys higher. Then maybe things get a little bit crazier. We'll end up seeing, but I don't think that there's a consensus on that. I think that there are teams that have Will Levis as the top guy. I think there might be some teams that have Richardson as the top guy, and there's certainly teams that have Stroud as the top guy and Bryce Young as the top guy.
Well, I definitely agree with that. I think you'd be naive to think otherwise. As you and I both know, as yearly subscribers to the pain that is the Minnesota Vikings, after drafting Christian Ponder in the first round,
Oh,
I will never not believe that teams evaluate quarterbacks however they want to. And I believe, Christian Ponder and even Jake Locker was that same draft. It was like, what are you guys doing? Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not getting paid a ton of money to evaluate prospects, but I have
Joe,
two eyes.
that's the comp for Will Levis, Jake Locker.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that too, and it's fun because Jake Locker was so much fun at Washington, and it's
Yeah,
for me as I'm more of the college guy. Don't get me wrong, I love watching the pros and whatnot, seeing these guys go, but watching Jake Locker in college and then projecting him at the next level was like, this is like there's some things we need to like stop and reevaluate. And Levis is the same way.
yeah.
You